everybody and welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing another tutorial for you today. Again, going on my theme of using up scrap fabrics that you might have. Today we're going to do something with jersey. So if you have any stretchy jersey fabric scraps, then this is the perfect project for you. And also, if there's any new little tiny humans that are expected or have recently been born, then this is a great gift to make. So today I'm going to show you how to make an adorable little knotted baby hat out of your jersey scraps. So I found a little random piece of this dotty jersey in my stash. And literally you don't need much fabric for this at all. In fact, the cuff and the hat pieces are separate. So you can use two different colours if you want to, and then you can have a different coloured cuff with a different coloured hat. That might look quite cute. I mean, anything on babies looks adorable. But yeah, you don't need much at all, and it's a super quick, super fun project to make. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Okay, so for this project, what you're going to need is some scrap jersey. You literally don't need that much at all, so anything you have in your stash, please get it out because it might be useful. A rotary cutter and a cutting mat, some pins and a template. This is actually a template from my website. It's a newborn size, and if you want to make a larger size than this, when we trace it off in a minute, you can just add 1/2 centimetre on the edges to go around the head, and then you can do a bigger size. So it only goes up in tiny increments, so there are plenty of other free patterns that you can download online. So if you'd like to make a different size, then feel free to download a different pattern, but I'm just going to use mine for this tutorial. Okay, so the first thing to do is just get some scrap paper. I've just got some scrap tracing paper here, and I've just copied out my template onto some separate pieces. The reason why we do this is so that you can have the original piece to modify at any other time. So if you decide that it's too small or too big, you can make modifications from the original pattern and then cut new traced pieces afterwards to use again. So I've traced both my pieces. This piece here is one piece cut on the fold. So I've written on it, cut one on fold. And the other piece, which is the knot part, you need 2 of those, so I've written cut 2. So you just need cut 1 on fold and cut 2, and that's all you need. That's all you need to make this whole hat, is those tiny little pieces. Okay, so I have a piece of jersey here. This is quite a stretchy jersey, so it would be perfect for making this. If you want a super soft baby hat, then any cotton jersey you have in your scraps bin will be super soft. This one actually has more polyester, but it's still quite a good quality soft one. But cotton jersey is what a lot of baby clothes are made out of. And if you want to be really, really good, pre-wash your fabric. If you've got fabric scraps of your jersey, then you've probably already pre-washed it, but just make sure that you've washed the stretch fabric. The reason we wash it is so that if there's any shrinkage, it will shrink in the first wash, and then there won't be any change of size when we come to make our hat. Okay, so I'm going to cut the main knot piece first. So I have laid my pattern piece on top. Now, jersey is so much better if you cut it with a rotary cutter like we're doing, and with pattern weights, but I've left all my pattern weights at the unit, so I'm going to pin mine. If you've just got pins, then pin it. Just be careful not to move the fabric too much underneath. The second thing to talk about is if you are using scraps like me, just make sure that you've got the direction of the fabric right. So you want the grain line to be upwards, and you want the stretch to be going the opposite way. So just have a feel of your fabric and make sure that the stretch is going across ways. There will be some stretch on the grain line, but you want most of the stretch going horizontally across your hat. So all I'm going to do now is use my rotary cutter to cut it out. Okay, so I cut my main hat piece through 2 layers, so I had to go over a few bits because my blade's a little bit blunt, but now we're going to cut the piece on the fold. Okay, so now I've got my piece cut on the fold, so I've got my folded edge here and I've lined up my arrow, so I've just flipped the piece over so that my fold arrow is on the fold of the fabric, and then I'm just going to cut these 3 sides so it'll be in one long strip. So now we're going to unpin these pieces and then we're going to start sewing. So when you've cut out your pieces, you should have 2 hat pieces like this, and 1 long strip that will be the band that goes around the bottom of the hat. So now we're going to start sewing. So the first thing you need to do is get your 2 main hat pieces, and we're going to place these right sides together. Okay, so we're going to be sewing these sides, just the curved edges. We're not going to sew across the bottom because that's where the head goes. So we just need to pin this curved edge all the way around this edge. Okay, so now that we've pinned these curved edges, we're going to sew these with a 6mm seam allowance. So if you have an overlocker, you can just use the overlocker and line the edge. You're not cutting anything off, you're just lining the edge up. If you're using a sewing machine, you need to use a zigzag stitch and a 6mm seam allowance. So if you don't have that measurement, measure it from the needle and then put a piece of masking tape next to it, and that should help. Okay, so once you've done that, you should have something that looks like this. I actually used the sewing machine so you can see what I've done. So I actually used an elongated zigzag, and I found a little notch in my machine foot so that I could measure exactly 6mm all the way around, and I just used my elongated zigzag to go around those edges. If you're using an overlocker, of course, just leave it as is, but what I suggest on these is if you want to, you can trim this seam allowance now down by half, but you don't have to because jersey doesn't fray. So now we're going to do the hat cuff. Okay, so you're going to get your hat cuff and you're going to fold it right sides together again, but lengthways. So it will be exactly how it looked before you cut it out. And what we're going to do is just join this short edge here. So we're going to pin this edge, and again, 6mm seam allowance on your machine or your overlocker, and we're just going to join this short edge here to make a round loop. Okay, so once you've done that, you should have something like this. And so now what you're going to do is just open out until that seam allowance is in your hands, and then you can just lay that flat so that the seams are pressed open, and then holding them still, you're just going to put them together so that now we've folded our whole loop in half lengthways. So you should have a double-sided loop now with your raw edges together and the seam allowances together, and we're just going to lay this out flat so that it's nice and neat. Okay, so once you've turned your hat the right way around, roughly, you're then going to get your cuff piece again, and I'm actually going to make the seam allowance in my cuff the back of the hat, so it's easy to find that. So what we're going to do is fold this in half so that the seam is in the centre of the cuff like that. You can measure it if you'd rather, and then I'm just going to mark the raw open edges either side of this so that I have 2 side seams marked here. Once you've got your 2 sides marked, we're now going to get our hat again. And what we want to do is put our cuff over the top of our hat so that all the raw edges are together at the top. So I'm going to place my hat inside the cuff. And those 2 side pins that we put in, we're going to line those up with the side seams of the hat underneath. And we're just going to sort of use our fingers to press those seams open, and once they're aligned, you can then take out the pin and then put it through all 3 layers to hold it in place. Okay, so it should look something like this. So you have your folded edge here in the hat, and then all 3 layers of raw edges at the top. So you can see that there's probably a little bit of bagginess. So what we're going to do is, just holding the 3 layers in your hands, you're just going to stretch the cuff slightly until the hat underneath is flat, and then you can hold that center point and pop another pin in. And again on the other side, we're just going to stretch the cuff until the hat underneath is flat, and then grab that there and put a pin in all 3 layers again. So it should look something like this. So what we're going to do now is start at the back, 6 more seam allowance again. We're going to sew around in a circle all 3 raw edges together. But between each pin, we're just going to pull it slightly and stretch the hat underneath. It doesn't need much force at all. You can see that that's it lying naturally, and that's me pulling it. That's literally the slightest movement, and then it's flat. And then when you get to that pin, you're going to grab the next pin and again just gently pull it flat and then sew it until you've sewn all the way around. Okay, so once you've done that, you should have something like this that's sewn all the way around. Again, if you used your machine like I did instead of your overlocker, then you can always trim these seam allowances down, but I do tend to leave them. So now what you can do is, I've just used a crochet hook to push out the rest of this little end, the knot piece. And if you've got any other blunt sort of like object that you can poke out that seam gently, then use whatever, but I find a crochet hook works really, really well. So now you're just going to turn this cuff the right way, and you can give it a gentle press if you want to, so that all the seam allowances are going up towards the hat. There's the back of my hat, and then what you can do is just fold the cuff in half so that then it sort of like covers that seam there. And it just looks super cute. And then all you need to do is, with the knot part, can you see how the rounded edge starts to disappear about here? So you're just going to pinch it where that disappears, and then use your finger to tie a knot. Pull it nice and tight, and there you have it. You've made a super cute little knotted baby hat out of scraps of jersey. Easy peasy. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed that little tutorial. I literally can't stop making these. I think they're so cute. And luckily there is 3 little babies coming into, not my life, but well, 2 of them coming into my life. One is my cousin, she's having a baby, and another is my best friend, she's having a baby, and the other one is another friend who's having a baby, and they're all due this summer. So I've got lots of baby clothes to make, which is great for me. But yes, this is just a super quick, fun project to do, perfect for in isolation, and also, if they live far away, they're really easy to post because they're so small and diddy. So not only are they quick to make, you can use up loads of small jersey scraps that you have, and really easy to send, and people love getting these as gifts. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you again for another video very soon. Happy handmade, everyone!